Thank you so much for having me. It's really good to see like loads of keen crypto people in Scotland. You're in Edinburgh, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Edinburgh's my favorite city in the whole world. I wish I'd gone to uni there. I went to Leeds instead. Boo. um, but yeah, so how much time do you want me to do my presentation for? Is there like a limit, or I can go on and on and on? Ethereum's incredible.
Do you want to do like 30 minutes or so?
30 minutes and questions. I can take questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Great. So let's no, that's not for you guys. So hello, Scotland. Yeah, as I said, my name is George Hallam. Business and Partnership Director at Ethereum. Currently working very, very, very hard on just making the ecosystem, all the incredible projects that are looking to leverage our tech, give them the assistance they need, help them find funding. So if anyone is, in the meetup there and is looking to build a dApp on Ethereum, please do reach out to me. You can follow me on Twitter at George A. Hallam. More than happy to help you. I can, we're doing dev grants at the moment, which is essentially, monetary grants in Ether or Bitcoin or fiat currency to assist people who are looking to do really cool stuff on Ethereum. But anyway, sales pitch done. I'm not trying to sell you anything. We've already got our money. Great. So for first slide, one of the biggest things about Ethereum is why the hell are we bothering to spend sort of all of our time, all of our effort for the last sort of year and a half almost now, building the system? I mean, what's the benefits? Why does it need to exist? Well, Ethereum, for a start, it kind of goes beyond Bitcoin. So it's like the blockchain plus. I mean, the simplest analogy, and it's awful, and I always get told off for saying this. But the simplest analogy for Ethereum is, and versus Bitcoin is Bitcoin is a spreadsheet on Excel. You can subtract, you can add numbers to various different cells, which is indicative of people's wallets, people's funds, whatever. With Ethereum, and this is really bad, and I do apologize, but it's essentially the same thing, but with macros as well. So you can start to build in additional logic on top of the very safe, secure mechanism that is the blockchain that allows people to trustlessly send value from one person to another. And why is that important? Going back, why is Bitcoin important? Well, what it boils down to is the system that we have today. So you have these centralized models, these groups, these entities, these companies, these government organizations that you as an individual will happily give them all your data, give them money, give them value, your life. They host that on these weird sort of digital services on the internet, and just because maybe it's human nature, or just because we've been conditioned to be a specific way, we trust them. We trust whoever it is, whether it be Facebook or our banks, I guess if you're in the UK, Lloyds or HSBC, not that we can trust them, but we do. We trust them with our information. And what we're actually providing them has incredible value. I mean, why do you think that Facebook, which is probably one of the largest digital entities in the world, is able to offer their service for free? Well, what it boils down to is they're actually monetizing the information. All of the clicks, all of the actions that you do on Facebook, the photos, everything else, it has value. And essentially what they're doing is they're capitalizing on that value, whereas and making a profit as well. It's not like they're just doing it as a non-profit model. So, and this really isn't great. I mean, you look at, say, banks in Cyprus. I mean, we all know what happened there. You have all these people trusting these banks to look after their money, look after what is effectively your life. I mean, I hate to say it, but we all work 9 to 5. Well, much longer for the majority of us, I'm sure, but we all work a lot every day to earn this money, which allows us to pay for our housing, to pay for food, just general human comforts. And we trust that with banks and people who hold money, and then all of a sudden they can come in and take it away. These banks, these centralized entities which are controlled by governments or whatever, can come in and extract value from things that you've earned, whether it be for tax issues or whatever. And for me, that's a serious problem. I mean, fair enough if I've done something wrong and I've played the system and for whatever reason I've done bad, then I have to face the consequences. But some things it's not quite so black and white, and you should be able to argue as to whether someone should have control over your funds. And in the current model, that doesn't really exist. And also because of these monetization models as well, they can try and obfuscate the data that you're creating as much as possible. But at the end of the day, it all boils back to, oh, I searched about, digital photography the other day. Ergo, Google can then serve me up some adverts on photography. And to some extent, that's great, because I'd much rather see some adverts on photography than sort of, lusty Russian babes or something like that. I don't really want that on my computer. And I'd much rather see the photography stuff. But still, it's breaking a boundary. And I think a lot of people, if they really knew exactly what was going on, wouldn't want that boundary being broken. And also as well, with these centralized models, you have these single points of failure. So, when you store files on Dropbox, when you store files on the Apple iCloud, you trust these groups, these entities, to keep your data safe. I'm pretty sure that Jennifer, what's her name? The miscellaneous people who lost their photos in the Apple iCloud hack would definitely have something to say about, the failures of a centralized entity, and that, it should be de facto. You should not even have to worry about security with these things. But, you have all these various people having their photos leaked, or private information being doxed, all that kind of stuff. And that's not cool. That's not something, that should be happening on the internet today. We've moved forward, and we should be beyond that now. So that's one of the things that Ethereum as an entity, beyond its cryptocurrency element or anything like that, wants to address, is the ability to change the paradigm of how we deal with personal information and personal value. But I'll I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the presentation. So what is Ethereum itself? So we talked about why it needs to exist, but what is Ethereum? Why is it different to what already exists today? Why are people excited about it? So Ethereum is, as you all probably know, entirely open source. Everything we do is available for anyone to use for any capacity. It's all GPL licensed, so you can go onto our GitHub, and all the cool stuff that we're building. We raised a lot of money, but all of that stuff is available for everyone. So it's kind of like a public entity in some respects. Like the research we're doing, the time and effort we're putting in is hopefully, and this isn't sure. I mean, people could forget about Ethereum in 5 years if we're not successful in what we do. But I'm pretty certain that we're a competent group of guys and girls, and we are producing value in the software that we're creating. So yeah, everything we've built is open source and available for everyone. And the main point of that in the long term and in the short term as well is to allow people to produce decentralized applications. And you've probably read a bit about Ethereum and heard about dApps, and I'm doing the inverted comma signs with my fingers here. But yeah, a dApps is essentially a shortened version of decentralized applications. And what are dApps? Well, dApps are essentially trusted entities, trusted pieces of software. So it can be a smart contract with a front end, or it can be a group of smart contracts working together to basically give someone a service. And exactly what smart contracts are, I'm sure a lot of you probably have a pretty good idea of what they are, but I'll speak again later on in the presentation exactly what they are sort of are by definition. So yeah, dApps allow you to cut out the middleman, which for a start is fantastic, because that's obviously saving huge amounts of costs. So you could have an escrow service, which is replacing a solicitor or something like that. If you're doing a housing sale, you could have an Ethereum, well, it'd probably be more like a smart contract. It'd be incredibly cheap, something like five pence or whatever. And that smart contract could act as a middleman. So instead of paying a solicitor £800 or whatever, if you have a digitized token, which is indicative of your housing deed, and that's coming. People are working on that kind of stuff, but this is still somewhat hypothetical. And then the other party has an amount of value, be it Ether, be it Bitcoin represented on the Ethereum blockchain, be it pounds represented in the Ethereum blockchain. This stuff is also all coming as well. Then that little smart contract on top of the blockchain can act as a mediator. So you can have the logic whereby if after 3 days, the criteria of this smart contract aren't met. So, both parties have added in their assets to the smart contract. A smart contract can hold value, it can hold tokens or whatever. If it's not met, then it can just return the tokens or whatever the assets to the original parties. And obviously you'd still need some sort of exterior human interaction in case, maybe in a year's time you found out the house has got subsidence or something. You still need a lawyer to deal with that. But in the short term, you were able to save a large amount of money just by using this incredibly intelligent piece of technology on top of the blockchain. That was just one example I gave you. It can be used to build anything. I was reading. You guys, can you hear? Can you say something just so I can be sure that you can hear me?
Yeah.
We're listening.
Okay, great. Just checking, just checking. So, I guess you guys all remember the Bitcoin pizza guy. Someone bought like a pizza for something like 200,000 Bitcoins or something ridiculous like that, like $7.5 million. Back in the old days, crazy times. So he did an interview recently, and one of the questions was specifically about Ethereum, and they were asking him, "Oh, why is Ethereum so cool?" And him being a sort of a staunch Bitcoiner, it's like, "Oh yeah, so Ethereum, it's going to be good for some sort of obscure financial tools, blah blah blah." No, 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 no. That's just not true. Ethereum can, as I said, it's built on a Turing complete scripting language, and though there is the sort of the fact that it has to be economically viable, like each computational step on the Ethereum network has a cost, you can build incredible systems on it. So I don't know if any of you have heard of EtherX, but EtherX is an exchange built entirely out of smart contracts. There's no outside input. There's nothing else working with it. It's literally you put an order in with your wallet, and the person on the other side has their own funds in their own wallet, and the smart contracts do the matching. It's as simple as that. But obviously it has a lot of intricacies and complicated bits as well. But that's how powerful Ethereum is. You can run entire sort of complicated systems on top of it. And for now, how that exists is simply as the back end stuff. So we have Solidity, which is our current sort of our programming language we built from the ground up. It's the world's first contract-oriented programming language in that it's built specifically for smart contracts. So it's incredibly concise, it's very lightweight, but it's also incredibly powerful as well. And it's based pretty much on JavaScript. So I'm sure there's a few developers in the room. You guys will love it. It's so easy to use. And I'll go on about that later on as well. I am digressing, but yeah. So you can do financial systems, you can do voting mechanisms. One thing that is really really cool is it's about time a game had an in-game blockchain. I mean, there's already these huge sort of markets when you have like people from World of Warcraft, whatever, these guys in China farming gold, farming rare legendary items or whatever. Why is that not like it should just have this great market. It should just have this incredible technology behind it, which allows people to seamlessly trade that stuff with fiat currencies. And I think Ethereum is going to make it really, I mean, we're in talks with some interesting groups, but I think Ethereum is really going to bring that to the forefront and make it easy. I mean, we're not. I can tell you right now, we're not talking to the guys at EVE Online. But can you imagine the potential for EVE Online, if any of you guys have played it, to have a blockchain in the background? It would be incredible. Anyway, so Ethereum is 100% peer-to-peer. Everything end-to-end is encrypted. You don't need to worry about the government snooping on your internet connection. What you do need to worry about is the government snooping on your actual hardware, and that's where they get the majority of their information from. But yeah, Ethereum is also proof. It's all we use the most up-to-date relevant encryption. We have every intention to scale. There's a lot of contention at the moment inside of the Bitcoin sort of devs or whatever, like, oh yeah, we've got to increase the block size. We've got to increase the block size. We're looking way, way, way beyond that. We're looking at sort of hundreds of thousands of transactions per second on the Ethereum network. It's gotta be there at some point. We're not saying we're going to do it today. We're not saying we're going to do it in a year, but you've got to start thinking ahead like that if you're going to compete with the likes of Visa or MasterCard or whatever. So we're looking at scaling Ethereum. I mean, some of you have probably read our blog. I really recommend, by the way, checking out the Ethereum blog for just learning, what we're up to and that sort of stuff. Yep, the Ethereum pre-sale at the time of sale raised 18.4 million US dollars in Bitcoin, and unfortunately we kept a lot of that funds throughout the sort of the crash in Bitcoin. We didn't want to crash the Bitcoin market. We're still incredibly pro Bitcoin, so we probably lost about $3 or $4 million through keeping our funding in, but worth it. I think at the end of the day, Bitcoin's an incredible technology, and we're more than happy to support it. Launch wise, there's a sort of an Ethereum meme where it's like 2 weeks, but seriously guys, 2 weeks. We really do intend to launch very, very soon. We're pretty much there. You can check out our GitHub. If you look at the specifically the Go implementation, which is what we're going with at launch, we're at 97% completion, so we're very much almost there. The Ethereum Foundation itself is currently hiring, so if there's any sort of captains of industry or incredibly connected, interesting people in the audience, please do check out there's a position for the executive director at the foundation, and also several board places as well. We'd love to have sort of incredible people working with us, so please do check that out. And the goal of Ethereum, the logical conclusion anyway, is to effectively replace the internet. So, well, not replace it, but offer an alternative, a decentralized alternative. And that comes along with the Swarm and Whisper protocol, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So how do you build an Ethereum? I'm going to have to ask you guys to speak up again because I need some kind of feedback on this one, but how many of you guys are developers?
Me.
Yeah, me.
So I'm counting, what was that, 3 out of 15 people?
You can hear that?
Between 8 and 12.
Oh, epic. Awesome. Cool. So unfortunately, this presentation is a little out of date. I haven't really had too much time to update it in the last sort of week or so. But it turns out Ethereum is actually incredibly easy to develop on. We're working on loads of really cool pieces of technology. So for instance,
The presentation.
pardon?
We can't see the presentation.
Oh no, what can you see?
Just you.
It's me. Oh, see, this is the problem with Hangouts being browser-based. Sorry, guys. Let me try and reshare my screen. There we go. George Deception again. Can you see that? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see this?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Google is not quite at Skype level yet, but I still kind of prefer Google Hangouts to Skype. I mean, Skype is just bad. Cool. So you can see the slide now. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So one of the most important thing about Ethereum, and in fact no, the most important thing about Ethereum is the ecosystem itself. So the group of smart contracts that is on the network that are working to produce value. And because the ecosystem is the most important thing, then obviously from our end, it's incredibly important for us to make it easy for people to build. Pardon me, to build within the ecosystem. So what we did is we took a step back and we were like, a lot of our early implementations, we had the 3 different programming languages. So we had a Python-like language called Serpent, a Lisp-like language called LLL, and a Go-like language called Mutan. And basically what we've done is we've shelved the LLL language, we've shelved the Go-like language. Vitalik is still working as a personal project on the Serpent, which is the Python-like language. It's currently on Serpent 2.0. But what we've done is we've sort of consolidated and realized that, well, everyone and their mum is developing on JavaScript these days. So we may as well make our contract-oriented language JavaScript light, and that's called Solidity. And I apologize for that not being written on this slide. I need to get new graphics done. And that's how the backend works, is you have these smart contracts, which are incredibly trivial to build. I mean, you can build something like I'm sure you've all heard about the famous Ethereum claims where we built, what was a counterparty in something like 50 lines of code. We did, a name registry in 5 lines of code. You can build your own currency on top of Ethereum. All of the altcoins that have ever existed can be built in Ethereum in 10 lines of code. Yeah, it's really, really simple to do backend stuff. And there are some new paradigms that you need to think about in terms of crypto economic security. It is pretty trivial. And the best thing about it is if you want to build a beautiful front end, which is what your users that are paying you money will eventually see at the end product. It can be HTML, it can be JavaScript. We're very much focusing on Meteor because we just happen to have a guy who works with us who literally wrote the book on Meteor. It's really lightweight. It's perfectly suited for decentralized solutions. So we're very much pushing that. You can also use Angular, whatever. It's super, super easy to build really cool stuff on top of Ethereum. And I'll talk about some use cases later on in the thing. So how does it work? I guess you guys all have a really, really good understanding of how the blockchain in general works, right?
Yeah.
Bitcoin Meetup, good. So I can sort of skip that part. The difference with Ethereum in terms of the Bitcoin blockchain, though, is you have smart contracts on top of it as well. And the only difference is, like, just like when you send a transaction to the Bitcoin network, that's how Ethereum smart contracts act as well. So imagine each smart contract is its own entity. So it has its own wallet. It can talk to other smart contracts. It can commit suicide. It can do pretty much anything that an actual user on the network can do, but as a decentralized piece of logic. And essentially, to run the smart contracts, to have them to do their functions or whatever it is that your function calls or whatever it is you're wanting them to do, you just send them a transaction, and that transaction is then converted from ether into gas, which is a very sort of esoteric pricing mechanism that I won't go into this presentation. I'll try and keep it short. But essentially, that's how Ethereum stops the problem of having infinite loops being written into it. In that, if you wrote an infinite loop, it would have an infinite cost. Therefore, it is impossible. And so, yeah, you have these smart contracts as your application backends, maintained by the network. So you don't need to worry about server infrastructure. You don't need to worry about, denial of service attacks, because if someone's trying to do a DDoS on the Ethereum network, it's going to cost a bomb. So it's just never going to be a viable thing to do. And yeah, that's from a simple context how Ethereum works. And if you want to ask more, and if you can see in the very cool diagram in front of you, you can see sort of Swarm and Whisper, and those two. No, I can talk about it now, I guess. So, how many of you know about Swarm and Whisper? Just a random count.
Yeah, 3 or 4, 5.
5 out of how many people in the room? Sorry, 5 out of
15.
5 out of 15. Oh, thunder and lightning in London. It's getting whoa. That's a big flash. Sorry. So Swarm and Whisper are essentially two partner protocols that make up the trifecta that is Ethereum. So Swarm is abbreviated as .buzz, BZZ, because we're funny like that. That's essentially an incentivized, decentralized file storage mechanism. So think BitTorrent, whereby you have a portion of your hard disk, but instead of having it unencrypted or whatever, you have a portion of your hard disk which you effectively rent out. It's entirely encrypted, and you store portions of people's files. So, for instance, imagine you have a header for a website, which is or a header for a DApp. You'd have that file stored on 15 different people's computers, and you need 7 of those 15 different computers to reassemble the file at any time. So you have redundancy and all of that. And that essentially means that you can store files for front ends, for dApps, in a decentralized way, which means it's very, very difficult, again, to shut down websites, DDoS them, whatever. So that's super cool. And then you have Whisper. And Whisper is essentially I think Gav, our CTO, characterizes as an ultra dark messaging protocol, somewhat replacing TCP/IP, whereby every node on the network, so every Ethereum node is also a Whisper node, and every node has access to every message within Whisper. So it's not incredibly efficient, but what it does offer is ultra darkness. So there's no way to infer when a message has entered the network, and there's no way to infer when a message is being read or interpreted within the network. So you have this plausible deniability thing, and it's very, very cool. It's very, very efficient, and that essentially allows people to, if something is too expensive to be run on the EVM, which is the Ethereum virtual machine, which runs these smart contracts within the blockchain, then you can put it through Whisper, and this allows you, if you're interested in, say, coin tumbling and that sort of thing, you can effectively take information off the blockchain, run it through Whisper, and then add that layer of sort of darkness or whatever it is that you need to obfuscate whatever it is you're doing. I don't know why you need to do that, but the functionality is there. So use cases. This is a funny slide. As I said before, Ethereum is built on a Turing-complete scripting language, so you can build anything. I mean, some of the projects which are kind of coming out of the woodwork at the moment are just, it's unbelievable. I really wish they'd come out earlier so we could have publicized them more. But one of the main ones that's super interesting that, if you guys are making notes to check out, you've probably heard of Provenance, which is being run by our own Jutta Steiner, who's basically managing the Ethereum security audit. She's incredible. She's working with a girl called Jessie Baker. And Provenance is essentially aiming to replace fair trade. So when you buy some coffee, or when you buy, I don't know what else comes in fair trade these days, some cookies or something from Brazil, they'll have a little fair trade JPEG on the packaging, which allows people who care to infer that the people who were involved in making this product were well paid. or at least paid a living minimum wage. Now, what it transpires is that there's no way for the user of the product to actually find out about that. You know, they can't just go on the internet and check through the supply chain or anything like that to make sure that, you know, little Ahmed in India or wherever was able to, you know, earn the money that he deserved for the product that he was creating, for his bananas or for his coffee, or, you know, or for anything at all. It's a bit of a scam, actually. You know, and I think there's some articles on the internet which would point to that being the case. So what Provenance wants to do is to put the supply chain on the blockchain, whereby each individual component of, say, a really expensive racing bike, which was, you know, the steel was created in India and then passed across to I don't know, a manufacturing warehouse in Nigeria where they built the bike itself, etc., etc. Each element of that racing bike is attributed to a token, and that token then has metadata associated with it, which will say, you know, this person created the wing nut for your wheel, and this person assembled the bike chain for the bike. And you know, you can say, well, you know, who's auditing them? That's the sort of the beyond the blockchain aspect of Provenance, is they have this huge auditing network, which is aiming to effectively go to the clothing makers in Vietnam or you know, wherever places in the world, and actually make sure that they're doing exactly what they're saying, and give an opportunity for the people that are submitting the tokens to the blockchain to speak out if something is going wrong. That's the value proposition of Provenance, is that you can buy a product and you can be wholly sure of where every single item or every single component of that product has come from. And that's a really cool use case for the blockchain, because it's not financial. It's not like the standard kind of thing that we'd associate with blockchain stuff. It's different. And I think there's a lot of value there. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what the girls can do with that. Another sort of somewhat more traditional project, let's skip on to the next page, that people are doing at the moment is Digits Global. Now, Digits Global is a very, very cool company. It's their chairman is sort of well, he's current CEO of Fujitsu Asia. And he's basically working with a few other guys to allow gold tokenization on the blockchain. Now, you know, if any other sort of person said, "Oh, I'm putting gold on the blockchain," you just be like, "Oh, whatever." But these guys are, you know, they're super competent. Like, instead of just, you know, having the current gold paper system represented on the blockchain, it's an entirely new paradigm. So, for instance, you'd send them, you know, they have vaults based in sort of every major city in the world. So you'd send to one of their vaults, let's just say, a kilogram of gold. And that kilogram of gold would then be audited, weighed, whatever, added into the vault. And at any point during its duration in the vault, you can pay for it to be audited to make sure it's still there. And then what Digits Global would do with their devs, is they'd issue you tokens indicative of the value of gold. So for ease's sake, let's just say for each gram of gold, you're issued one token. So you have 1,000 tokens for a kilogram. You can then use those 1,000 tokens, which are obviously, you know, definitely worth each 1 gram of gold, on the blockchain to bootstrap your own currency as a you know, a piece of value for anything you'd like to do. And at the end of it, if you have one of those tokens, you can send the tokens back to Digits Global, redeem it, and they will send you the gold in the mail, right? And that's pretty damn awesome. I think that's, and they're looking to obviously extend that over time to things like diamonds. You know, be looking at carbon trading platforms, oil and gas, anything that can be audited and proven to exist can be effectively tokenized onto the blockchain and traded on decentralized exchanges. You know, and with weird assets that haven't previously been traded. I mean, imagine, I'm sure some of you guys probably have quite a lot of air miles that you're not really able to access in terms of, you know, capital. I mean, I'm sure if you had the chance, you'd probably swap those air miles for Tesco Club Card points, so you could, you know, have a cheaper weekly shop. With Ethereum, not only is that stuff sort of viable, but it's logical as well. I mean, like, if groups are seeing people, you know, extracting the worth from these things that previously, you know, maybe used to 50% utility, they're going to need to jump on. They're going to need to take part. So there's a huge value proposition there, in terms of, you know, using Ethereum to tokenize assets and be able to trade them in new special ways. Banks are specifically from that. A last one. I mean, you guys, I'm sure you all know about IBM's Adept project, the IoT project on top of Ethereum. I probably don't need to go into that. You can ask questions about it at the end if you're not up to speed with that. But another sort of side project, and it's good to help out the little guys. We're really about that at Ethereum, but I don't know if you can see in that picture, it's a guy called Dan. Oh, sorry, no, John. And John has essentially got a little electronic door lock connected to a Raspberry Pi, which is running an Ethereum node. And what that basically is, logically, is, you give someone a token on their phone on an Ethereum Lite client. They scan their NFC chip in their phone against a door that allows them access to a house for an amount of time. Now imagine using that as a basically a good fix for Airbnb, or a decentralized Airbnb built on top of Ethereum. You give people a token which is valid for a certain amount of days that they pay for, and then once they stop paying, you take the token away, and they can't have access to the house in the future, whatever. Very, very cool stuff. So which is this one? Oh, man, you had your fun. Yeah. So did anyone here buy an Oculus Rift?
No.
Not a single person. Okay, well this presentation works better in America. But had you bought an Oculus Rift, you would have spent $300 on an incredible piece of technology, and then that's kind of it, right? I mean, you took part in the pre-sale. Oculus Rift has since then released, I think, 3 further iterations of their technology. So, if you bought the first one, it was 720p, it had massive lag, it made everyone projectile vomit everywhere. It wasn't an awesome product, but it was pretty good. It was enough to get the party started. But the issue is that realistically, if you'd spent that $300 on Oculus Rift stock, then that $300 would have turned into $60,000. $60,000. And effectively every single person who bought an Oculus Rift, even if they were able to use it in early days and create a product and market that product, probably still wouldn't have redeemed that $60,000 that they probably should have been given, had it been funded in a different model. And that's a real issue. I mean, so I don't know if you guys know Stefan Tool. It's his biggest gripe with his Oculus Rift is that, he would be $60,000 richer if it had been a different model. And I was talking about tokenization previously. Turns out you can do tokens for, decentralized Kickstarters. And there is one that's already being created. It's called wayfund.io, if you want to check it out. It's very cool. Nick Dodson, great developer. And it's pretty much following on from, I don't know if you guys know Swarm with Joel Dietz. But he's kind of, working on this project as well. He's pretty interested in, migrating across to Ethereum or whatever. But yeah, so imagine the ability to bootstrap your business in a crowd sale, much like Ethereum did. We did a crowd sale, pre-sale, and we raised a lot of money, and this is why we're able to do what we're able to do today. And we'd like to, be able to have other entities using that model. It's a pretty good model, and Ethereum makes that very, very much possible. So that's definitely something worth checking out. Again with the tokenization, node incentivization. So I guess some of you guys probably heard of Boink or Folding at Home, SETI. There's even Folding Coin. We're kind of in talks with those guys at the moment, looking at potentially representing Folding Coin on top of Ethereum. But imagine if you're, my best example actually is a separate group that's looking to build something on top of Ethereum called Golem. Pardon me. And Golem, the aim of Golem is to connect each university in the world with high speed fiber or whatever, with every other university in the world. So you have, for instance, universities in the UK that have a huge amount of computational power in form of supercomputers or whatever. And then you have universities in India or Africa or South America that don't have the funds or the access to these incredibly powerful supercomputers, even though the researchers that are working there are working on equally viable projects. So what if to make the whole process of using this computational power more efficient, what if you were able to tokenize and trade computational power in the university networks, or for that matter, any sort of network? So, someone like Oxford University, if it's late at night and someone's not using a specific supercomputer or a computational entity to do work, what if they were able to sell that computational power at a very cheap cost and allow access to, say, the University of Mumbai to use that computational power to do their research? Now, for me, that's a huge value proposition. People need access to high-powered computing. It's just the way things are these days. There's a lot of things that need to be worked out, and unfortunately, we're just not clever enough to do it on our own. So, that as a system in terms of, incentivizing people to share their computational power or allow it at least to be traded. And again, it goes back. You can trade computational power, call it, I don't know, supercomputer coin, against air miles, against Tesco's club card points. It all goes back to this sort of modularity of Ethereum where anything can work with anything else. So that's really, really cool. And also as well, clean energy production. So imagine you have, it's 5 years, 10 years in the future. Everyone's now getting sort of solar panels on their houses. We've all got little windmills on our chimneys. How does the grid that exists today cope with that? It doesn't. It can't possibly. The grid is not. It's supposed to have a constant supply of power all the time. It's not ready to accept these sort of ups and downs of renewable energy. And I guess a lot of you are probably aware of that. But with Ethereum, what you can do is you can create a decentralized market where each megawatt or kilowatt that your renewable energy sources are providing can then be, along with Elon Musk's incredible batteries. You can essentially buy and sell power, kilowatt hours. So for instance, my house has loads of solar panels, whatever. I'm producing way more electricity than I need, but the house next door, they never bothered to buy any. I can literally sell electricity to the house next door, and I don't have to worry about it because it's all taken care of on a decentralized exchange. That kind of stuff is really, really incredible. And there's some very, very interesting groups that are working on that sort of project specifically. I can't really talk about it at the moment, but as an idea, it's just magnificent. I really think that's going to hopefully change the world. Who knows about, what's it called? The Kenyan Chama. Who knows about Chama?
No.
Anyone from East Africa? No. So Chama is effectively reputation in finance in a social environment. So in Kenya, you'll have a group of guys or girls that will come together. Some have upstanding members of the community, some are relatively unknown. What you do is you stake your reputation for other people who you trust, maybe family members or whatever, to allow them to access capital. And this is what the big banks and sort of everyone else in finance doesn't really get about places that aren't the Western world, is they just do things a little bit differently. Like, this is not a system that can really be compared, at least formally, in Western society. And what Ethereum again allows you to do is sort of effectively sell reputation or tokenize reputation. I don't know if you guys have heard of Augur, but Augur is essentially using the Schelling coin principle. Google it. To allow people to do decentralized reputation and sort of prediction markets. So, essentially you buy sort of the ability to have a reputation, and then you then sell that back and allows you to make predictions. It's very, very interesting stuff. But again, Ethereum allows you to carry reputation, not just in one entity as well. I said about Ethereum being modular. If you have a reputation on, say, a decentralized Airbnb, there's nothing to stop you carrying that reputation along to decentralized eBay or decentralized Auto Trader or decentralized whatever, or whatever project is being built on top of Ethereum. There's nothing to stop you carrying the value, which is a reputation. Reputation is value. Nothing to stop you bringing that with you wherever you go. And the benefits of that are, like, imagine if you want to you sign up to eBay, you haven't got any reputation on there, no one knows who you are, and you want to sell some products. People aren't going to trust you, and if they are, it's going to be a very, very slow start. So if there is a way to allow you to carry a reputation that you built in one sort of silo to another silo, that's a lot of value. And again, it's a very much a new way of doing things. DAOs. DAOs are decentralized autonomous organizations for a start, but you can also have decentralized autonomous societies, decentralized autonomous companies, whatever, you name it, you can have it as being decentralized autonomous. And effectively what it is where you abstract the logic that previously a group of board members would have to preside over, and you can put that logic into a smart contract. So the smart contract itself can, through democracy or whatever mechanism you want to build into it, can act as the sort of the overseer for company decisions. So I mean, one of my personal ideas, nothing to do with whatever I'm talking about right now, just something I want to build personally, is a DAO charity, whereby each person within the DAO, so you sign up, you pay, say, I don't know, £5 a month, and that buys you access into the DAO. It adds you as a board member or whatever, and then that then allows you to vote. So maybe you have a community off the blockchain which has got a forum, and you have polls or whatever, and people submit ideas for the next this month's charity that we're going to fund. So you might have Oxfam versus Barnardo's versus Cancer Research UK, and then people within the DAO vote on which charity they think is mostly deserves the pooled funds for that month. And then you have this sort of democracy within a computer program which allows people to choose where their money is going. And I think this that as itself hasn't got any value. It's not going to make any money. Obviously, it's a charity. It's just something I want to do. But it's incredibly powerful. I mean, imagine having that power to do something like that. It really sort of blows me away. So that's an interesting project. So beyond use cases, what is Ethereum going to be in the future? So here we have a wonderful mock-up from Alex van der Sande, our incredibly talented UI developer based in Brazil, of what Ethereum will be in the future. So this is Mist, and this is essentially the Ether browser. We're also working on sort of a Chrome plugin called Vapor, but we feel that you have the standard Bitcoin wallet client or Dogecoin wallet client. We want to go well beyond that. We want to have actual important things going on inside of it. And as I said earlier on, dApps are going to be a big thing on Ethereum. So why not be able to serve the dApps in our own sort of browser? And this is open source. Anyone can fork it. Google can take it, add it into their own stack, whatever. And essentially, it's just a graphical user interface to allow Ethereum to be really, really easy to interact with for the layman. So, be it my mom or my dad or people who have no real clue about technology, but still want to have access to the power that crypto economics can give to someone. So you can see here sort of my property, people mining. The Jane and Zek joint accounts. So that's just an interesting thing to talk about with Ethereum is you can have different accounts within sort of one entity. So you can have an anonymous account which you use for anonymous activities. You can have an account which is associated with your business. You can have an account which is associated to you personally, you as a family, and you can very easily, and this is stuff we're really sort of working hard on, very easily navigate between these different entities to allow you to do whatever it is you need to do at specific times. So you can have an anonymous account, but that anonymous account can still generate reputation by being a good actor. And then, you can still carry that anonymous account to somewhere else. And, that's kind of interesting stuff.
Okay, got a question.
Oh, go ahead.
If you have this wonderful distributed peer-to-peer and end-to-end encrypted framework, how do you go about protecting law or forensics or supporting, identifying unlawful transactions or things like this? Fraud.
Sure. So I saw a really, really interesting presentation the other day, which completely opened my mind to this as a premise. It was Diacool. They're a London-based law firm, and they were talking about sort of law on the blockchain, specifically the Bitcoin blockchain. And what it basically transpired down to was if a large enough group of entities use Bitcoin, they can effectively blacklist addresses or blacklist even physical Bitcoins. They can say, right, this Bitcoin has obviously been used in a fraudulent transaction where someone bought some drugs or, it was money laundering. And that Bitcoin just, through the power of color coins or whatever external database of the blockchain can be blacklisted. That's pretty scary. And I'll be honest with you right now, me personally, I haven't threshed out the individual intricacies of, this sort of stuff. I think as crypto matures, there's very much going to be a black and white economy, just like there exists with fiat today. The thing is with Ethereum, which is different to Bitcoin though, is that if you wish to adhere to a specific type of politics or regulation, KYC, AML, there is nothing stopping you from building that logic into your smart contracts. So if you're going to build a remittance system inside of Ethereum and, someone's going to $10,000 transaction from one entity to another, your smart contracts can ping and force the user to submit the relevant information to the relevant authorities for their KYC AML check. There is nothing stopping you doing that inside of Ethereum. And that's something Bitcoin can't do. There's no sort of checks or politics inside of the blockchain itself. And no Ethereum has no politics inside it by default. You're more than welcome to build your politics and regulational needs inside of the blockchain. So I think Ethereum kind of copes with that aspect pretty well. But it will be interesting to see how it transpires in the future. It's a really good question, actually. Thank you very much for asking it. So the story so far, I always think this slide should probably be first, but it's nice to kind of reach it towards the end. So Ethereum started as a white paper written by a 19-year-old sort of Russian-Canadian, well, what can we call Vitalik Buterin, a genius. So a lot of early people kind of jumped on board. I didn't hear about Ethereum until it must have been January or February of 2014. So I'm old school. Sorry, I'm a newbie. But yeah, so you had the original founders. They got involved. There was no VC for early Ethereum. People kind of just grafted and did what they had to do. we had we started off with Gav's C++ implementation of the Ethereum client, and Jeff, you might know him as Obscurin, he did the Go client, and obviously Vitalik has been working on his Python-based Pytherium clients as well. This is again, I do apologize, out of date. We're currently on proof of concept 9, which is the Olympic testnet. And if you guys have any GPU miners or just want to sort of mess around with some Ethereum stuff, I do implore you to jump on board. I'd be happy to give you some assistance with that. There's currently a 0.5 Ether reward for every block mined. So if you're interested in, if you've got a fair few GPUs and want to mine a bit of Ether before it goes into the market, you're more than welcome to. Or if you just want to help, I mean, we do need help, and we're still trying to thresh out the last few sort of bugs or whatever. So you'd be greatly appreciated. But as I said before, the ecosystem, the community. My bad. Back. The ecosystem, the community are so important to Ethereum. Like it's the people who are working in the stuff, in behind the scenes, or that are not actually attached to Ethereum. That's the value proposition. People want to use it, people will use it. If not, we'll fade into insignificance. It's our fault for not, meeting the needs of the market. And hopefully, at least because our software is open source, someone can then pick it up and do something interesting with it in the future. Worst case scenario. But fortunately, we have an effervescent community. 81 meetups worldwide, 6,000 members. I think it's pushing sort of 7K now. We have meetups in Rwanda, we have meetups in Iran, meetups in Indonesia, wherever. It's incredible to see the amount of people who are enthused about Ethereum. So yeah, our community metrics are pretty good, I'd say. And feel free to call me out on this, but in terms of social media and that sort of thing, Ethereum is by and large the second largest crypto community, crypto organization, cryptocurrency, which is pretty cool because we haven't even launched yet. And speaking of which, at launch, we will not be serving the beautiful sort of thing that is Mist. I wish we could say that we were going to launch with it, but you just haven't had the time, we haven't had the resources, it's going to take a while. So we have a sort of 4-stage launch process. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll be launching on Frontier, and that'll be effectively Ethereum with training wheels. So we'll have the 24-hour checkpoints. So just in case anything goes wrong, we can revert the blockchain 24 hours, revert, make sure everything's fixed. We're not expecting that to happen, but we already have, as I said previously, $18 million of value within the blockchain, which makes our job somewhat more difficult in terms of we have to secure that value from day one. If Bitcoin blockchain had $18 million of value in it on day one, it would have just been hacked to oblivion. So we've had a pretty difficult job there. So that's Frontier. After a month of bug-free sort of blocks being mined or whatever, we'll switch to Home. And Homestead is removing the training wheels. It's Ethereum, but it's not Mist yet. It's not entirely ready for ultimate end user adoption, but it is pretty much how things will be. So the block reward will be increased from 0.6 ether to 5.9 ether per block, from going from Frontier to Homestead. But we'll still have the CLI. I mean, Mist will be an alpha, and you're more than welcome to use it. But we want to audit it. We want to make sure it's super safe and no one's going to lose any money or anything like that. Following Homestead, we moved to Metropolis, and Metropolis is go time for Ethereum. We're expecting that in sort of October, November of this year. That's when Mist will be released. That's when people will be serving their dApps in semi-centralized mechanisms, whereby the front end of the dApp will just be in your Chrome browser, whatever, and they might use BitTorrent or Swarm or Whisper or Telehash to serve the rest of the dApp itself. But once Mist is done, it kind of brings the party together and allows people to do some really interesting stuff. So we've been working with auditors. The auditors have given us the go-ahead, but you can only trust them so much. We want to be incredibly certain that everything with Ethereum is going to be safe. And right now, it's for at least for me, I'm excited. I'm so sort of on the edge of my seat, waiting for the day that devs are going to say, right, we're going for it. We're opening, we're doing the Genesis block. It's been a hell of a journey, an incredible journey. I don't know if any of you guys have worked in sort of startups or crypto startups, but geez, what a ride. And yeah, that's my little presentation. I'm sorry if I sort of went off on a few tangents or whatever. I'll leave you with sort of the what if page. It raises some pretty big questions. Sort of, as I said, what if reputation applications were modular? What if you could sort of pick and choose the bits you want from different applications and bring them into other ones? What if you could bootstrap your business with Digits Global's gold tokens or issue shares on a decentralized Kickstarter? All of a sudden, because Ethereum has these smart contracts, you can build entire financial banking systems. So what if you can give the Nigeria, the African countries, the places that currently don't have easy access to digital, let alone physical banking instruments? What if you could give that to them? What if anyone could create their own currency? I mean, we saw, I'm not sure about that one. We saw what happened with the altcoin boom of 2014, and there's about, 4 left? So, yeah. Computer programs that can employ humans, that's back to the DAOs. So the more, as time goes on, the DAOs will start being coupled with artificial intelligences, which can make, more rational decisions than humans. What if an artificial intelligence is running a company? What if it has the ability to learn about new markets? What if it sort of transcends from an American market into a Japanese market? Incredible stuff. You have the Internet of Things that is much more secure. It's secured by crypto economic principles we see in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And yeah, what if the internet became secure again? What if it wasn't just one big old hack that was kind of thrown together in the early 1980s, and kind of never really changed to fit the needs of modern society? That's what we're kind of looking to address with Ethereum. We don't know the answers to most of these questions. It's very much an adventure we're about to set out on. But yeah, we're about to find out. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks for that, George.
No worries. I think I probably, oh wow, it's been an hour?
Yeah.
I get lost in Ethereum.
one of these topics, once you start, there's so many areas that I guess we'll go into. It's fascinating. I think we're going to have other sessions to be able to follow up on this. I think we've got maybe a couple of questions just so that we stay on track for what we've got planned afterwards. But then I've got people clamoring on this side as well, so I'll turn it around a little bit.
So,
hey guys.
Right. So currently in this country, it's pretty much illegal to set up a business that buys and sells Bitcoin. Or when I say illegal, it's I think it's the banks won't let you have a business account if that's what you use it for.
Yeah.
Have you guys at Ethereum worked on something that will essentially help us to start writing companies that work purely on virtual currencies?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. So, you have the DAOs and you have like the financial instruments that you can just really simply build. You couple them together. Oh, and by the way, Ethereum has IBAN, sort of, you guys know IBAN, International Bank Account Number. So that is built into Ethereum. So, we're currently in talks with pretty much every major bank in London in terms of, building products for them or whatever we're trying to do. We're better than Ripple. So we want to do like all the stuff that Ripple's trying to do. But yeah, so effectively what will eventually happen is you'll have an Ethereum wallet.
You probably hit the button on your speaker underneath me.
Me? What have I done?
No,
it's probably this end.
Sorry.
By the way.
Yeah. So effectively, what we will be able to do in a few years' time is you will have a wallet, which is an Ethereum wallet, but it will just so happen to be entirely able to work alongside your traditional bank account. So banks will offer crypto. You'll be able to list your Ether inside of a traditional bank account. It's coming. It's going to be a thing. You'll be able to have your Bitcoin in the current bank account. As much as it's great to have your Ether, or your Bitcoin, your Ripple, secured by yourself, I'd be worried that if I had, I don't have any Bitcoin. Well, I have a few Bitcoin left, but if I had like 10,000 Bitcoin, I wouldn't want to be responsible for that. That's a lot of money. There's a reason why like banking infrastructure exists today is you can give, as much as you can't trust them because they could take it all away, at the same time, you can give them that money and it's safe. So if you guys know, if you do have Bitcoin and you don't know of a company called Elliptic, they don't do anything. They're just a really good Bitcoin company. And they keep private keys in cold storage. They just are competent as hell. They've actually managed to persuade, I have no idea how, an insurer to insure Bitcoin wallets in their whatever system they have, sort of, you know, air gapped you know, system. So, you know, there are mechanisms out there, and it's slowly going to divulge. So a lot of the early crypto people, and then this is kind of again spinning off, but a lot of the early crypto guys were very much like anarchistic, and, you know, we need this massive change, and, you know, the world order is screwed, whatever. I don't believe in that. I don't buy it. I think if there's going to be any meaningful change in terms of change equals growth, then it has to be a slow process. And you know, you have to be friends with the status quo that exists today. You just can't push against it. It's not going to work. But what you can do is you can start, you know, entering in or making it so viable to have these trustless based mechanisms where, you know, or at least open source, you know, open ledger mechanisms where they have no choice but to take part in it. Ergo, that means that their operations are transparent and everyone is a winner in the long term. And that's like something we realize at Ethereum. We don't want to go for the massive, like, you know, revolution where, you know, 50% of the population doesn't have access to water or something stupid like that. No, we want to have the slow, gradual change where things get better over time and we have meaningful results.
Fantastic. Great.
Cool.
Cool.
Anyone else got a final question around the group? Proving that there are people here and it wasn't just me.
You guys have got there. Where is that?
What's that, sorry?
It's a really cool space you guys have got there. Where's it at?
We're in Codebase, which is, I think it's now the biggest technology incubator in the UK. So,
oh, wow. Edinburgh.
So it's all kicking off in Edinburgh now. So it would, yeah. Well, if nobody's got any more questions specifically, then just want to say thanks very much. There will definitely be more stuff happening in terms of Ethereum. I understand there's potentially stuff happening with informatics as well. Fingers crossed, or the university's up here anyway. So thanks very much for your time, and we'll follow up after this. But everyone just wants to say thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks very much.